Welcome back. All right. What we've got on the board is teams arranged by points percentage coming into today. This does not include today's results as of yet. Right now, the Islanders are playing against Seattle. I'll be doing a review of the two matinee games. I get the feeling there's not that many people that are clamoring to see in November games between St. Louis and Boston and the Islanders and Seattle who wins those battles. That being said, number one team on this board is, of course, Winnipeg. 15-2 to start the season, 882 points percentage. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and they're 10-0 against the West. So in this video, I'm going to try to make an argument for how any of these teams can win the Stanley Cup. And it goes all the way down to Colorado. That's the only 500 team I included, because if I didn't include Colorado, Avs fans would definitely be like, you need to have Colorado on the board, dude. They're all beat up, but they're going to get healthy, and then they're going to beat up all your teams because they're not on the board, dude. Put Colorado on the board. We're going to wait. Anyways, the Winnipeg Jets, in order to make the argument for them as, potential Stanley Cup champion, I really think they have all the pieces they need. It feels like when a series starts going against this team, that's it. And that's something we've seen with Winnipeg for years. They need to be able to recover from a bad game and show that they're able to bounce back, and that's been an issue. So if Winnipeg can do that this season, they could very well win a Stanley Cup, which would be the first seen in by a Canadian team since 1993. Minnesota's second on the board in terms of points percentage, 781 points percentage, 11-2-3 start, 7-2-1 over their last 10. They're 7-1-2 on the road. Minnesota's quite the road warriors. Not that they're bad at home, of course. They have a good home record, just better on the road. And for Minnesota, it's not a dissimilar position they find themselves in than the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think Minnesota has the amount of star players that Winnipeg does. They don't have the goaltending Winnipeg does either. However, when we get to the playoffs, if Minnesota's in there and Winnipeg's in there, it's going to be a similar storyline with both. Can they overcome their shortcomings? Can they finally get over the hump come playoff time? Because both Minnesota and Winnipeg have similar playoff reputations there. A 733 points percentage for Carolina. They are 11-4 on the season, 8-2 over their last 10, and 5-0 in their division. Against the Metro Division, they're 5-0 so far this year. For Carolina, it is interesting because it is not completely dissimilar to Winnipeg and Minnesota. Carolina, they've been in the playoffs every year since 2019. Have not made it as far as a final. They've made it to the conference final a couple of times and got swept both times. So Carolina needs to show they can up their game. They have everything they need. I am concerned with the goaltending. I will admit, with Carolina, I don't know if they have a goaltender that I look at and say, that goaltender wins 4 rounds for them, no problem. This is where people point out Aiden Hill. They'll point out Jordan Binnington, because back in 2019 he was a rookie, which is all true, but it doesn't necessarily invalidate concerns around goaltending. And with Carolina, this has been a conversation for years. So, yeah, it's a conversation I think the Canes and their fans would probably like to go away. Washington, 11-4-1 start, 719 points percentage, 6-3-1 over their last 10. They're 5-0 against the West. So not much trouble against Western teams, including last night against Colorado. For Washington, they weren't expected to be here, but that might be to their benefit. There is something to be said for a team trying to get a last championship for somebody, and in Ovechkin's case, that's what they'd be trying to do, on top of trying to get him to catch Gretzky's goal record, of course. So, yeah, unless the Capitals get really distracted by that goal chase, let's say that he gets within 5 goals of Gretzky, and then everybody's just trying to set up Ovechkin and get him those goals, that could be a distraction. But in general, I think Washington's got a good team. I'm not against the goaltending tandem as, like, how do I put this? Because I don't want to say it the same as Carolina, because it's not the same. I do think that with Logan Thompson, there's some experience there, and so, but again, is Logan Thompson a cup winning? Is Charlie Lindgren a cup winning goaltender? That question mark might be there. Plus, I don't know if Washington has enough depth necessarily to win a Stanley Cup, but that's a whole conversation for, well, I guess for now, you guys can let me know your thoughts. For Vegas, 11-4-2 record, 706 points percentage. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're 8-1 at home. Very, very good at home. And that is important. The Fortress needs to be a very difficult place to play. And right now it has been. This season it definitely has been. You want that to stay that way. And of course, if Vegas wins their division or if they win the West, and I know that the odds of winning the West don't look great right now, but we're still relatively early in the season. So if they do win the West, and if they're excellent at home, that's really all you need. And Vegas has already shown in just a couple of years ago, a couple of years being 2023, which was technically a couple of seasons ago. You guys know what I mean. They already showed that they have what it takes to win, and I don't think they're any weaker necessarily right now. Because the record tells you that they're probably not. Dorofeev has had a really good, strong run so far, and yeah, with Vegas, they're an interesting team. The Rangers 10-4-1, 700 points percentage. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They're 5-1 on the road, so better on the road than at home. The New York Rangers should win a Stanley Cup over the next few years. Maybe they win it in 2025. In order to get there, I think the depth's there. We know the goaltending's there, and we know that they can play really good defense. All of the assets you're looking for the New York Rangers are there for them to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, maybe they add a little depth up front and on the blue line, but seriously, everything's there for the Rangers to win a Stanley Cup. Florida, your defending champions, 11-5-1, 676 points percentage, 7-3 in their last 10, but 2 of those 3 were against New Jersey. They're 6-2 on the road. So in the case of the Florida Panthers, they're mildly better on the road than they are at home. And I say mildly because those back-to-back losses against New Jersey, that's just one team. If you take those losses out of the mix, their home and road records are both excellent. Florida's going to be extremely dangerous come playoff time. I would not be surprised to see them finish outside of first place in their division. I wouldn't be surprised to see them struggle, and then come playoff time, turn it on, because they know that's where the games are important. So I'm not overly concerned with Florida at this point, despite the back-to-back losses against New Jersey. Dallas, 10-5 record, 667 points percentage, 6-4 over their last 10, a little bit more of a speed bump lately on their schedule. They're 6-1 against the West, very good against their own conference. Dallas is also very good at home, and they're showing they could put the puck in the net in bunches. So for the Dallas Stars right now, the concern that I have with them is more of when they're playing against the good teams, like the really good teams in the NHL, other teams ahead of them on this board, they do struggle. But does Dallas have everything they need to win a Stanley Cup? Yes, they were my pick before the season started. That means they're still my pick now. I still think there's a really good mix of veterans, youth, the goaltending's there. I think their defense is excellent. We'll see how everything shakes down. The New Jersey Devils, 12-6-2 on the season, 650 points percentage. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. But against their own division, they've only won 2 out of 5 games. They're 2-1-2 against the Metro. So that might be something to keep an eye on, because it is divisional playoffs once we get there. But for the New Jersey Devils, we knew that this could be a season they turn things around. I never wavered in that belief. I think they've fixed the goaltending issues. I think their defense is better. Getting Dougie Hamilton back has been huge for this team. So I'm still pretty bullish on this team. I didn't pick them for the Cup because I picked them last year for the Cup, and we know how that season went. So I'm not going to do that again. But for New Jersey, yeah, things are trending in the right direction. We'll see whether or not they're able to maintain this. Keep in mind they've played more games than basically anybody else right now, so other teams are going to have games in hand. So that does mean that at times you're going to be higher up in the standings than you otherwise might be, because the other teams haven't played enough games yet. Vancouver's 8-4-3, a 633 points percentage. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. The notable with them is that they're 6-1 on the road. They need to win at home. If they can get back to winning at home, and if they can play like they did last year, then they're a contender. Arguing them for a Stanley Cup right now is very difficult. I can argue it for anybody else on the board relatively easily. For the Canucks, it's difficult because while I've loved what Lankinen's done so far, is he going to take them to the Stanley Cup? Probably not. I still have concerns about the depth on the blue line. I have concerns about them not playing the full 60 minutes. Again, it's hard for me to argue them for a Stanley Cup. But if I was going to, I would say this team still has a very good core. JT Miller is a playoff performer. And this is a team that should be a very difficult out, as they've proven themselves to be the last couple times they've made the playoffs. They do not go out of the playoffs easily. Although the last game against Edmonton, but the less said about that, the better. Toronto, 10-6-2 record, 6-2-2 over their last 10. They have a 611 points percentage. They're 7-3 at home. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the argument for them for the Stanley Cup makes people laugh. My argument is simple. If they can get over their own personal demons, if they can get past whatever voice in their heads telling them they're not good enough, they can win. And they can win a lot in the playoffs. I think there's a good team here. I don't know if they're as good this year as they were, say, 3 years ago. I do worry with Toronto that they may have already peaked in terms of their roster, but all the pieces are there. And since there's a couple of pretty prominent guys going to unrestricted free agency, potentially in June, that might, or well, in July, it might be a motivator to get them to play some games in June. So, yeah, Toronto, I guess the argument can be made is just get over whatever it is up here that's been throwing things off. And that's been obvious since they lost the 3-1 series lead against the Montreal Canadiens. Not the first series they had a lead in and then lost over this run, but that one the most prominent. LA 9-6-3 record, 583 points percentage. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. They're 4-1-1 at home. What's interesting is now they're better at home than they were on the road than they are on the road. Last year, of course, it was the other way around. So the LA Kings, I guess you could say they could go for a win one for Kopitar kind of thing. They could get lightning in a bottle if Darcy Kemper finds 2022 Darcy Kemper, who was part of the team that won the Stanley Cup with the Avalanche. The argument gets a little difficult to make, though, with the Kings. It does. Maybe Drew Doughty comes back, plays absolutely fantastic hockey. Maybe they win the division. Maybe they get some confidence going there, and come playoff time they can win that, but it gets difficult. Calgary, also 9-6-3, also 583 points percentage. 4-4-2 over their last 10. They're 4-1-2 against the East. Calgary's tough to argue too because they still look like they're going to be rebuilding. Craig Conroy has not been in discussion that I've heard. I haven't heard any rumors about the Flames selling anybody off or anything like that happening. But at some point in time, that's probably going to happen. So I don't know that I mean, I could try to make the argument for the Flames. Dustin Wolf has been playing very, very well. Wouldn't be the first rookie goaltender to lead a team on a run, but is it likely? Probably not. Tampa Bay, 8-6-1, 567 points percentage, 5-4-1 over their last 10. At home, they're very good, 5-1-1. They kind of need home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. That might be difficult. Tampa Bay, it really depends on the game. Sometimes they look like contenders, and sometimes they really don't. I do have some concern about their depth a little bit and blue line a little bit. And then there's the fact that, with Vasilevsky, he's going to have to avoid any kind of injury going forward and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see from them the rest of the way. But when a team has won the Stanley Cup as recently as they have, and they won it back-to-back, you can't count them out either. They have a lot of experience. Getting McDonough back should help come playoff time too. So, again, we shall see. The Edmonton Oilers are 9-7-1 on the season, 559 points percentage, 7-3 over their last 10 games. They're 5-2 on the road. Very good road record for the Oilers. The Oilers are going to be tough no matter what. And I know that their start to the season has caused them to kind of fall off the radar for people. They've not fallen off of mine. And when things start to click, and I think they're starting to, this team is going to be very, very difficult to defeat come playoff time. They made it all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final this past June. No reason to think they can't be competitive again this coming spring and potentially summer as well. I would not be surprised to see the Oilers go on another long run. The question mark for the Oilers, though, and it's weird because Stuart Skinner gets them all the way into the final this past year, but I don't know if he can do it again. I don't know. His numbers have been kind of scary lately, so reading an article on how he's not paying attention to the numbers, probably the right call for him, to be honest. Ottawa, 8-7-1 record, 531 points percentage, 4-5-1 over their last 10, 4-2 against the Atlantic. One thing working in Ottawa's favor, if I'm going to argue them for a Stanley Cup, because it does get difficult when you're down to this point, but Ottawa plays really well as an underdog in the playoffs. And it feels like over their existence, and I don't have data for this, but it feels like they're better off as underdogs than they are as favorites. So being an underdog could work to Ottawa's advantage, and who knows? You've got Ullmark in net. Maybe he gets hot at the right time and gets back to being the Ullmark from a couple seasons ago, who was, pretty darn good. just the regular season version, not the playoff version. And who knows? Maybe the Sens can surprise some people. The Islanders are 7-6-4. They're currently playing in Seattle as I'm watching this here, and I'm doing this video. 529 points percentage for them. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. They're 4-1-4 in 1-goal games. That needs to get better. They need to be better in 1-goal games. They've only lost 1 in regulation, but they've won 4 out of 9. So that's something that I think they need to get going. But that being said, we know the Islanders are tough if they make it into the playoffs from 2020 and 2021. There's been some early exits since then, but can they get hot? They absolutely can. It's a team effort. The Islanders don't have just one superstar. Their defense is good. Their goaltending with Sorokin's fantastic. And when you've got a really good goaltender, that can help. And last but not least, Colorado. Because as I said, you have to include Colorado because you have to. They are 9-9. They're 500. They're 5-5 over their last 10. They're 2-5 against the East. They're just getting healthy, though. They showed in 2022 what they could do on a playoff run. And I think this team, there's every reason to think that they could go on another run. I do have tremendous concern about the goaltending. Annunin's been good at times. Georgiev seems to be getting a little better. But this is a team that needs an absolute bona fide starting goaltender. So in the event the goaltending numbers stay mediocre, and if that keeps dragging their record down with everybody healthy, if that were to happen, that's where I think we'll start to hear about Colorado being in the market for a goaltender. You do not want to lose another year of Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, and all these players in their prime because you just don't have a goaltender that's reliable over a 7-game series. So there's my concern with Colorado, and the reality is that if they can figure out the goaltending, they're probably in pretty good shape. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Who do you think would win the Cup if the playoffs started today? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.